Game three of the ALDS, and the Yankees are fighting off elimination. And Yankees are on home turf now. Get it back to the Bronx. We're going to welcome in my co-host, Billy Martin Jr. Billy, thanks for joining us again tonight.
Well, glad to be here. I wish we weren't down 2-0, but it's not over yet.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me do this. I'm going to read the starting lineups from both teams, and then we're going to welcome in a special caller, and we're going to drill down and do a lot of analysis. But Toronto's got Springer, Schneider, Vlad, Kirk, Varsho, Clement, Santander, IKF, and Jimenez at short, and Bieber on the mound. Yankees are running it back. Okay, they use the same lineup all three games in the series: Grisham, Judge, Bellinger, Rice, Stanton, Jazz, McMahon, Volpe, Wells, and on the bump we have Carlos Rodon. With that in mind, we're going to welcome in TJ from Arkansas. TJ, welcome back. Thank you for joining us.
Mike, thanks for having me. Billy, it's always a pleasure.
TJ,
Absolutely.
you are a catcher, Arkansas State. Sometimes you look at the game through a catcher's eye. When you look at the two pitchers going head to head, any thoughts jump out at you?
I just think that Rodon's got to go out there and shove for us tonight. Go out there and try to give us 7 or 8 and hope for the best. Bieber's going to be tough. He usually does give us trouble, but I think with us being at home, we just got to go out there and play our game and not play like we have been playing.
Okay. Billy, your thoughts on that? And again, TJ is on point. The thing I guess maybe we could hope and hang our hat on a little bit is that Shane Bieber had Tommy John surgery, and he's only pitched. It's only a small sample size this year. He's got very odd stats. I'll get into that in a minute, but your general thoughts, Billy.
Well, come on. I mean, you got a guy that's as close as a 20-game winner as the Yankees have had in a long time. And that's the guy you want right now on the mound. That's not where the problem's been, though, right? The starting pitching's been okay. This bullpen has to figure it out, and tonight's hopefully going to be that night.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Against Boston, the starting pitching couldn't have been better, TJ. But, north of the border, and boy, oh boy, it really makes you scratch your head a little bit. But I want to throw this out for both of you gentlemen. And I heard the comments after the game, after the Max Fried debacle, and I'll call it that. And, Michael Kay and Jack Curry and John Flaherty, they're trying to make some sense in it. The best that they came up with was that they said, well, maybe he's tipping his pitchers, et cetera. Well, I'm going to put that off to a side. I'm not really necessarily buying that. And one of the things, my phone blew up. I mean, I was getting a lot of text messages from people. I did a little pregame before the Fried start, and I threw a couple of things out there what to look for, and a lot of people got a hold of me. And what I was saying in advance to the Max Fried start was that look for not only his signature pitch, his curveball, but also look for his changeup. And this is something that he gained tremendous confidence in September, Max Fried, what I'm talking about. And I'm expecting to see it. He did not throw it for the entire first time through the batting order. He didn't throw his first changeup until the third inning, TJ. So as a former catcher, that right, that had me scratching my head from my couch. And I literally, chart every pitch, and I'm saying to myself, that's not good for a pitcher who prides himself on mixing velocity off speed and getting you out in front, etc., like that. I just, did not understand that. I don't know if that jumped out at you also as you were watching the game develop.
I don't know if he's calling those pitches. They're coming in from the dugout, or who's calling them. But yeah, it was definitely noticeable that he wasn't throwing those pitches, and it has been his bread and butter with his fastball, mixing those speeds and variations up. So I don't know where it's coming from or why.
Yep. And Billy, we'll throw it to you. But when we think of the debacle in Toronto, those first two games, man, they jumped us early. They got out to huge leads. And what I want to say is, and I'm going to drill down on this later, but I don't want to overlook the obvious, Billy. It's one thing because I talk a lot about pitch mix. I talk a lot about sequencing, etc. But we can never overlook. You could talk about quantity. How many pitches did he throw of a particular? But what about the quality? And what I'm talking about there, when you think back, Luis Heel in game one, in the first inning, we kind of unleashed a monster with Vlad. Okay. And basically, what it was that pitch for that home run that got them rolling was a changeup that had absolutely no sink to it. It had, a little bit of arm side run, which you would expect from a changeup, but absolutely no sink to it, Billy. And it ended up being middle in, and he crushed it and he pulled it, and it really got them off to the races.
Yeah, and something we don't want to talk about much, but every time these guys go out there, they're different. And I'm talking about the guys on the mound. I mean, their stuff's different. A former big leaguer named Todd Van Poppel, who grew up here in Arlington, Texas, he would, when he was warming up in the bullpen, figure out if he was going to throw his slider or his curveball. He only brought one of them out basically every time he threw. And whichever one felt better in there, that's the one he went with. I mean, these guys are not the same every time. They want to be, they try to be, but this is a game played by humans. And, sometimes that's why one of the questions I always have is, who's judging the now? I know the analytics guys are always looking in advance to say, okay, this guy in the bullpen matches up with these next three guys really well. But who's looking at the now? I mean, if I'm a pitching coach, I want to sit right behind home plate. I want to see video from right behind home plate. I want to see everything, how it breaks, how sharp it is, what it looks like. I mean, if I built my own stadium, I'd have a little tunnel where my pitching coach could go stand right behind home plate and watch, because that's one of the things that drove me the craziest about coaching. As an agent, I'd go sit with the scouts right behind home plate and watch the pitchers. In the dugout, you can't see that. You can only see up and down. You can't see in and out. And you can't see the life. You can't see so many things from that side angle. So he probably didn't have it. And guys are going to come out and say that. If you remember, Roger Clemens used to say things like that, and the New York media would beat him up and say that he was an excuse maker, because he'd say, I couldn't locate the fastball tonight. TJ knows what I'm talking about because he's a catcher. And that's when you have to change the plan, try to help him find it. And maybe it's an adjustment, but sometimes they just don't have it.
All excellent points, Billy. TJ, I asked you before the show, give me a few things you want to speak about. So, I wrote them down. As you say, they're all great talking points. But the one that I'd like to start with you first, based on where this conversation is going. You mentioned Luke Weaver, and when I heard his post game, boy, oh boy, that really scared me. The comments in terms of the mental part of the game, and I'm not sure if my mind is where it needs to be to compete and all of that. TJ, give us thoughts on Luke Weaver, if you will.
I just don't know what's happened to this kid. And yes, I think confidence is the biggest thing right now with him. Uh, he'll go out there, get ahead 0-2, look like he's going to put somebody away, and then he's up walking them. The next thing you know, there's a base hit, then there's another base hit, and then there's a gapper. And I don't know what's going on and why he's continuing to struggle like he is. But and the next question is why Booney is still running him out there in these high leverage situations. I'm puzzled with it. I know the kid's a good kid. He's a hard worker, but my goodness, I don't know how he went from being so reliable and dependable to just falling off big time.
You know what? And we'll let Billy weigh in on this, but you hit on something very key. And what bothered me is there's some commonality to the reasons that they're giving, and I'm going to mention where I'm going with this. Luke Weaver, he reason why he says he's betwixt and between is because the coaches are telling him that it looks like he's tipping his pitches, and they're trying to get him to change his delivery or something. It could be his glove or whatever it is, and he's not. He said, I am not confident with what they're asking me to do. That's a big problem at this point of the season. And that's an obvious statement. But again, so if we're talking tipping with him, I heard Cam Schlittler say he thought he was tipping in the game against the Toronto Blue Jays in September, if you remember, when they were fouling balls off and fouling balls off and fouling balls off and fouling balls off, and he didn't even make it out of the second inning. But I have my own theory that I'm going to elaborate on, but I'd like to, Billy, if you could just kind of weigh in at this point in the season, trying to change Luke Weaver's mechanics, because we helped him. He used to have a very high leg kick, and now he went to almost what we would all describe as a slide step. Okay, but now we're going to break that down again, and we're going to do something different at this stage of the game. Billy?
Another one of these conversations I have to have all the time with my clients is you have to hold on to yourself, okay? Because every coach wants to put a stamp on you. This happens more in the minor leagues, obviously. When you got coaches trying to make it to the major leagues as well, right? They don't want to be the A-ball pitching coach. They want to be the big league pitching coach, just like the players. So it's funny because clients will say, oh, my coach loves me. Nah, you don't know that until you read the reports. He's going to act like he does because you may get to the big leagues before he will. And if you're in the big leagues shoving and you don't like the guy and you find out, hey, so-and-so's about to be our new bullpen coach, I'm going to call Brian Cashman and say, hey, trade my guy. He doesn't want that guy to be his bullpen coach. So there's so much politics in the game, but what these players have to remember is they're their own business, right? I'm lucky enough to be on the board of directors with mom and dad, but they're putting their business in the mall that's the New York Yankees. And they have to hold on to themselves. If Weaver doesn't believe that's going to work, it's not. Even if it's great advice, if he doesn't believe it's going to work, it's not. I mean, that's just how our brain works. And making mechanical changes, significant ones at this stage in the game, are a little tricky, right? That's something you want to work on in the off season. But I'm going to guess it's not that huge of a thing they're asking him to do. Basically, what I tell my guys is trust your own inner voice. You know when a guy comes and says, hey, try this, and you try, no, wow, I like that. Or, oh, no, this isn't me. Trust your inner voice and do what it says and move on. And stuff like this is tough, man, because you have to make adjustments. You have to figure things out, but it's hard to do in playoff time of year.
Exactly, Billy. Well said. And TJ, well, let's switch gears just a little bit. We'll jump back into the pitching, in a moment. But it's been a debacle all the way around with these first two games. It'd be extremely lopsided. And the thing is that when you look at our offense, and then you say Kevin Gosman, he shut us down, pretty good. We know that there was a pivotal moment in game one, TJ, where we had the bases loaded, nobody out, Aaron Judge up. Statistically, he's doing okay in terms of he's gotten his share of singles and doubles, etc. But the thing is that was a pivotal moment in that game, and let's hope it wasn't a pivotal moment in the entire series.
I agree. I mean, I can go back to it was like the early '81 Cardinals. They had Silent George Hendrick and all these guys. They all hit 300, but there was no big boppers coming up with the big hits. That was the thing. And I love Judgy. If he comes up, bases loaded, this is the moment right here. Bases loaded, no outs, and he strikes out, chases a ball in the dirt, which would have been ball four, I believe. And he doesn't come up. Bellinger walks, forces in a run. Thank goodness we got that one, but I'm still thinking somebody's got to come up with a big hit. And then Stanton didn't come up. And I know he's been historically very good in the postseason, but he has not been hitting as well. And Mike and Bill, it just kind of seems like these little things, I've stressed this all year, little things add up. And there's a close ball game, and the next thing you know, we have our chance, we blow it, and then somebody kicks in the door and blows us out. And that's just how that happened. Now, when Vlad hit the grand slam, I believe it was, I think it was a 3-1 count, and it was a big fat pitch that he ripped. We just haven't had the big hit, regardless of who it is. We just haven't had anybody. But I was expecting Aaron to come up and come up with a big knock in that time at that point in the game, and it just didn't happen. Obviously, we got to do something. We got to do something tonight and hopefully tomorrow.
You know what? Well said, TJ, and agree with you all the way around. And Billy, he's got very, very odd reverse splits, Shane Bieber does. And righties are hitting him very hard. It's a small sample size, but TJ said it perfectly. And again, as I said, Billy, that was the turning point of game one. Let's hope it wasn't the turning point of the entire series, right? With Judge chasing after a ball in the dirt with the bases loaded, and an opportunity to put his stamp on that game and the series. You just hope, Billy, that he's not already in that mindset where he's trying to do too much. Let the game come to you. Do what you do best. And honestly, you always want to tip your cap to the competition, but I really don't feel like the pitching that we've seen so far has warranted that kind of the way it's that we feel we've been dominated. Bill,
it's you wouldn't be any good if you didn't want to put your stamp on it in that big moment. That's what every player wants to do, right? You want to hit the grand slam. You want to hit the game winner. You want to be the star. I mean, that's why I still play in the 60 and over league, because it's not the same for me to hit a great shot in golf. What am I going to do? Oh, am I going to hug myself? Yes. Or when I hit one in the trees, I'm not that angry. I get over it. But in a baseball game, when I make a dive and play and flip it to the shortstop and he turns a double play, And that pitcher's looking at me going, dude, I love you, man. Great play. That's why you play the game. And it nothing replaces that. So guys like Aaron Judge don't get to be any good, not trying to be the best at all times. And you're right. Sometimes because of that, players try to do too much, try to pull the ball out when they just need to flick it to right field. But you know what? If that's his biggest problem in his DNA, I'll take it, because he's going to get more opportunities.
You are right about that. And the thing is, the Yankees are facing elimination. And it's unfortunate because of the fact that the Yankees did not win the division. They were in a flat-footed tie with Toronto for 94 wins each. They had the same identical record. And TJ, you know what? It makes me harken back. It makes me think back. And we've talked about this, a number of times. But then when you think back that Anthony Volpe, he was playing injured for a significant amount of the season. Consider this, ladies and gentlemen. When he dove for a ball and he felt and heard a pop in his left shoulder, it was May 3rd. May 3rd. He played majority of the season. And then we find out that on September 11th, he goes for another MRI. First, we were told, oh, good news, the MRI is clean. And now, lo and behold, there's a partial tear in the labrum. So he gets a cortisone shot, and he looks like he's played better. But TJ, is it fair to say, how many games we lost during the regular season? And we really, we went into a losing streak where we felt that, maybe Boone's job was on the line. Volpe was just being eviscerated by the fans, being booed. His father was getting into, verbal altercations, in the stands. And my goodness, we lost so many games because of poor defense. And all we would have needed to win one of those games, and we get home field advantage. We don't have to be facing elimination necessarily at this point. TJ, do you kind of reflect on the season and have that same lament?
I felt it all year, fellas. A game here and there, and we'd have been in the catbird seat. Just too many games we squandered. We had opportunities over and over again, and one ball game. That's all it took. Now, kudos to us coming down the stretch and winning that 8 straight to be in a position. And we were hoping that the Jays might lose one, but, they played tough ball too. They didn't back in. They put the pressure on us, and we did win those 8 in a row. But you go back to all those blown saves that Williams had. Those, I don't know, was it 8, 10, something like that, right? I believe. Some of those games were just ridiculous. And if we could have just won 1 or 2 of those, we'd have been home. And we'd have had the best record in the American League. But ifs and buts were candies and nuts. You know that story. We'd all have a great Christmas, fellas.
You're right. And you know what? And Billy, TJ just said something. I'm going to get your thoughts on this. He mentions Devin Williams, but my goodness, how things have changed. We just talked about Luke Weaver, right? I think that they used Fernando Cruz. I blame Aaron Boone for bringing in Cruz. I don't want to see him in innings where he's coming in with traffic. And I want to see him start a clean inning, gentlemen. And here's why. His splitter is unhittable. Statistically, it's unhittable. He throws that splitter, and TJ, as a catcher, you would know what we're talking about here. It's got very little rotation to it. It's almost like a knuckleball, so it's very, very hard to square up. It's also hard to throw for a strike. So if the batters lay off, there's a good chance it's going to land out of the strike zone, and there's a good chance he gives up too many walks, in plain English. Now, if he comes into a clean inning and he walks 1 or 2, okay, he can work around it, strike out there. But when he comes in with first and second and nobody out, which he did twice in the postseason, both with trying to clean up the mess from Luke Weaver. I don't like that, Billy, because again, he's got first and second, nobody out, and now he's coming in. He's got no margin or error. He can't walk anybody for the reasons why I just said. So what I'm saying is, Billy, and I'll get your thoughts on this. I'm looking ahead. I'll talk about Carlos Rodon in a minute, ladies and gentlemen, what to look for. But let's just say and keep our fingers crossed and hope. If he goes 7 innings, is it fair to say, gentlemen, that maybe Devin Williams would be the person to go to in the eighth? We know the ninth is Bednar, but you got to give the ball to somebody in the eighth. Billy, what do you think?
I've said this before. I like guys having defined roles, and somebody needs to be the stopper. Somebody needs to be the guy you can bring in when all hell's breaking out. Then when you've got two guys on, 2 outs, but you need to get them out. Somebody needs to be the closer. Somebody needs to be the setup guy. Somebody needs to set up the setup guy. I think players do much better when they know their role. And I think we're relying on the analytics guys looking at matchups, which, like we've talked about, works during the regular season. But in the postseason, the mental game is so important. These guys have to be so strong up here right now. And like we alluded to earlier, if you don't think you can do it, if you don't believe this is the right spot, it's not going to work. And so, I don't know. We know El Oso's the closer. Let's make Devin the eighth inning guy. But then, or should he be the stopper? Maybe he should be the stopper. Maybe Devin should be the stopper. I don't know. I just love to see some consistency there because I think it gets the players' minds right, and then they can go out and win.
I agree. I love Bednar, what he's done. I gave him a nickname on Twitter, TJ. I call him Bedrock. This is New York City. We're built on bedrock, so I call him Bednar. I call him Bedrock. I call him Solid Bed. But TJ, I value your opinion. I want to go back to the point that I made, and I want your opinion on this because it speaks to exactly what Billy just said. What I'm saying is that Boone has, he takes out the binder, so to speak, and he says, this is Fernando Cruz's lane. Okay. I hate that. In other words, it might be his lane, but I'm not bringing him in, okay, with first and second. Nobody. In other words, it might be the three batters that they have pre-scripted. I want Cruz to face these guys, which is fine, but I'm not bringing him in to face those three guys if it's not a clean inning and it just so happens to be, like again, as I said, twice it happened, first and second, no one out. Do you get my point? In other words, it's not just the lane, it's the circumstance. And Cruz, if he walks a lot of batters, I don't want to see that. It doesn't seem to me like they factored that in.
I think you're right. I think it all is a gut feeling. Okay. It should be somewhat of a gut feeling. I think these guys, you come in a situation, the situation is going to dictate what you're going to do. That's what I think. You got guys on base like you already mentioned, a wild pitch here, there, and the next thing you know, it's second and third, and we're in real trouble. The clean inning, I agree that I think that's something that would definitely be beneficial. Billy made the point about Bednar. Maybe Williams should be. I'd like to see Hill in there a little bit more than he's been. But I agree with the roles. You got to have roles. You got to know what your role is, and then you'll be able to carry it out if that's your role.
Absolutely. And Billy, let's turn back to the offense just for a couple of minutes. And we see players like Jazz, who put up a 30-30 season, and that's impressive. But he batted last year in the postseason a buck 82. This year he's batting a buck 80 something. And, these are players that if you're going to, make noise in the postseason, you need contributions from where you don't expect them. And honestly speaking, where you do expect them. And I think we could all agree. We all love Bellinger and we all waxed poetic about Cody Bellinger, the three of us, all year. And lo and behold, isn't it funny that he steps up? And isn't it funny that he performs in the postseason? Why? We talked about it all year because he not only he'll try and turn on a ball early in the count. He doesn't get cheated on his swings early in the count. But you could just see with two strikes, he's got this approach. I'm not striking out. I'm going to put the ball in play. I'll foul off a tough pitch. It's beautiful to see. Someone on social media today threw something out. It was an at-bat by Johnny Damon, back in, 2009. And he's spoiling off pitches and getting the pitch count up, and, all of that good stuff. And you say, we don't see enough of it now. And we've all talked about that it's ridiculous for analytics to say that batting average doesn't matter. Ladies and gentlemen, just think back, okay, to not that long ago, the 2009 championship team, okay? We had collectively, the Yankees had a 283 team batting average, okay? And you had guys, Johnny Damon, we mentioned Metsui, okay? We had Robinson Cano. These are lefties, but these are not lefties just trying to yank a ball into the short porch. These guys that were consistently looking to go gap. They were consistently just looking to go with the pitch, all of that. And here's one thing, and Billy, I'll get your thoughts on this. Do you think it's a coincidence that the Toronto Blue Jays, out of 30 teams, finished first in batting average out of 30 teams? Do you think it's a coincidence that this team that we're looking at finished first in the lowest strikeout percentage? So they're the hardest team to strike out, highest batting average. So, and they're doing it without Bo Bichette, by the way. Billy?
No, that's not a coincidence at all. And even though the analytics guys don't like to hear things like this, the reason the Milwaukee Brewers may look like the best team in the playoffs because they play old school baseball. And this game's over a century old. They didn't have analytics guys back then. What was important? Your batting average. One of Mickey Mantle's biggest regrets was not quitting a season earlier so he could have retired as a 300 hitter. Now think about that. We're talking about a guy who people are still buying his jersey, right? You go to the Yankee game, you will see number 7s and Mantles all over the place. And that played on his heart. But you got today's players who could care less about things like that because they've been sold a bill of goods. Because striking out hurts. Making outs hurts. Moving guys over is important. Doing your job as a hitter changes every at-bat and during the at-bat. Like we're talking about. Okay, now I got 2 strikes. I got to shorten up. I got to open up. I got to put the ball in play. See if I can help my team here. First 2 swings were for me. This next one's for the team. We need more players to think like that. Jazz starts thinking like that, then he'll be a 30-30 guy in the postseason.
Yeah. Excellent. And TJ, we'll turn it over to you, but and we're talking about the fundamentals, and you started off the conversation and this episode by talking about the little things. And like when you think about it, we fell behind to the Red Sox 1-0, but we we were fortunate to get past them. And one of the things that you think about fundamentals, they failed. Okay, they kicked the ball around. Their left fielder didn't make a routine catch. Their first baseman didn't make a play. When they attempted to bunt and they had Fernando Cruz on the ropes in one of those situations that I'm talking about, he bunted it right up in the air to Fernando Cruz. Those little things make a big difference. Now, when we talk about the Toronto Blue Jays, not only are they hitting for power, not only are they hitting for average, but also when you think about the defensive plays that they made, you had Lucas in right field making a diving catch along the right field line. You had Straw, who came in for defensive purposes, playing left field, and he makes a diving catch down the left field line when we were trying to make a comeback. You had Vlad not only hitting home runs, not only going 3 for 5 and 4 for 5, but making a great play at first base and turning it into a double play. TJ, it's what you're talking about, the little things that are not little.
Agree. Toronto is doing everything right now. So if we can get a break, make a break, and go from there, win a ball game, and then try to extend it, get the momentum going again, hopefully win again tomorrow, push it to a game 5. And if you get to game 5, you never know.
Absolutely right. Gentlemen, I'm just going to throw out a little bit with today's starting pitcher and Carlos Rodon. We're all, very pleased to see the progression and the improvement in his pitching style, his repertoire. He's become a different pitcher. And I'm probably going to say, you know what, maybe I'm being overly hopeful, but I think and hope that he's learned and grown to the point where we all know that when he came to the Yankees, he was exclusively fastball, slider, fastball up in the zone, and then his slider, which is, quite a plus pitch for him, his slider coming out of the same tunnel up high and then going straight down. Okay. And glove side. But that was not enough. That was not good enough. And he realized he needed to throw that third pitch. He needed to throw his changeup. And he started doing it. And he did it last year during the regular season. But he really didn't own it. It wasn't something that his confidence level was unshakable. And in the postseason, he didn't throw the changeup against Kansas City. He got way ahead of himself. If you remember back in one of those starts, he's laughing because he's blowing everybody away early with his fastball. But then, you know what? Kansas City comes back and they knock him out in the 4th inning because it's just all hard stuff. But I believe he has learned, ladies and gentlemen, at least I hope. If we see the fastball, we see the slider, we know that's his calling card. The third pitch must be his changeup. And why that's so important, it's got arm side run, ladies and gentlemen, and it's got sink. So if we had to put a template together and we had to say, let's just talk about Vlad for a second. He looks very, very comfortable. Well, Vlad, we're going to come up and in on you with a fastball, not looking to hit you, but we're going to stand you up, as the old saying goes, and then we go down and away. It's a strategy as old as baseball itself. Okay, hard up and in, soft, down and away, but we have to see it. It has to be executed. We're not looking for change-ups like Luis Heel that end up middle. Okay, he can do it. He's been terrific this season. And just as TJ said, if we go out and we get a quality start, or dare we dream and say a dominant start, that would be something that could get the momentum going in the right direction. Win today's game, and then we have Schlittler going tomorrow, and then anything could happen in a game 5. But it has to start. It has to start with solid pitching. Billy, your thoughts?
You say that, and I was just looking at that. Like, this is set up so well for a Game 5, right? I mean, I think Rodon's going to be the guy he's been all season. The Yankees win this game. What Schlittler did last game, who knows if he can follow that up? Who does Toronto bring to start against Schlittler? And who is Toronto's Game 5 and the Yankees Game 5 starter?
Well, I'll tell you this. I
Obviously,
can tell you,
it could be irrelevant.
yeah. Well, I think
obviously it could be irrelevant.
Yeah, I'll say it simply. I think that I believe that Toronto would be a bullpen game tomorrow, and I think that for that reason, I think it's so important for us to get out to an early lead, because if we go out to an early lead, they could well punt the game, TJ. They could say, well, if tomorrow's a bullpen game, then you know what? I can't start going into my bullpen. I'm already down for nothing or something like that. That could bode very, very well for us. And so I'm not sure what Toronto will do, but my guess would be a bullpen game, and my guess would be Gosman, back, in Game 5. But who knows for them? But I can tell you this. It would be Max Fried in game number 5. And I'll tell you what. I heard Michael Kay, and I heard everybody, they all throw their arms up in the air. I don't want to go into it tonight because of the fact that it's too premature, but we'll discuss it, gentlemen, what he needs to do the next time, and it's tangible and it's doable. And TJ, I'll ask you, but I'll say it the way I feel. If we go out and we get blown out again and get swept, this will be a bitter pill for me, and this would be and should be unacceptable for Hal Steinbrenner and the organization. Your thoughts?
I'm with you 100%. I don't want it to happen as far as us losing. I want us to win these darn ball games and keep going. But if what you said happens, I mean, I've felt this now for 7 years. I gave Aaron a free pass year 1. I love Girardi. I hated to see Girardi go, especially the way he went. The Yankees have never had, as an organization, a manager that's managed this long and never won a World Series championship. And I know George had a lot of faults. I'm not going to, Billy, with what happened with your dad all those times. But I will say this about George. It wasn't from a lack of wanting to win or trying to win. And to me, I just have not seen that. Maybe I'm a little bit blunt with this, but being a lifelong Yankee fan, it's really, really gotten my craw the last several years, where it just doesn't seem like anybody cares. All they want to do is make money. But that's just my opinion.
Bill?
Mike, I'd like to follow up on that. And I don't know how, like I knew Hank Steinbrenner, but they were brothers. And I'm gotta think they probably have similar thought processes. Hank loved my father and would get mad at his father every time he fired my father. And like I've said on the show, I'm not sure George wasn't wrong the first time in 78, letting Bob Lemon take over. And there was so much drama going on. There was that clubhouse needed somebody to just come in, make the lineup, not say a damn word, and let that team play. With all the stuff that was going on with my father and Reggie and George, and there was plenty of other stuff going on that didn't make the top billing. Okay. But all the other times I think he was wrong. And Hank told me that. Hank Steinbrenner said that to me one day. Drove me crazy. Dad, we have the best manager in baseball. Let him do his job. Trust him. And we've seen Hal say on occasion, I'm not my father. So was that part of it? Is he trusting his baseball people? I respect that to some degree. I also love and respect the George Steinbrenner. It's a fine line, right? It's like we're talking about with the analytics. You can make a lot of great points that they're making. But, are you okay with this? I think they fix it if you let a guy like, and I don't know what kind of manager Boone is. I really don't. I don't think any of us do. I don't think he gets to make the calls. I'm convinced of that. And I may be completely wrong. But I don't think he makes any calls. I think he gets a note, he reads his note, and does it. Because think about the situation we had with Jazz not starting and us talking about it on the show and him not getting any prep for that. If Aaron Boone had been thinking about that for a couple days, he would have talked to him about it. But then again, is that why Jazz is trying too hard? I don't think so, because his playoff record shows us he tries to do too much in the postseason instead of just trusting his athleticism and going with it. But today's player, even having a two-strike approach like we're so fond of on the show, if you talk to today's player about that, they'll say, well, that's selling out. I'm not selling out. I don't get that.
Well, gentlemen, the last time the three of us were together making a prediction, it was in the Boston series. The Yankees were behind. We all predicted a win, and they did come back and they did win. So, we'll go around the horn, so to speak. I'm going to say that I'm going to make a prediction that the Yankees will win tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I guess maybe I'm speaking from the heart, but we are home, okay? And the Yankees are a good baseball team. Are they perfect? No. Do I think they're going to win a World Series? Unfortunately, I don't believe they're going to go all the way. But I think we're good enough to beat Toronto. And I think we are good enough to at least win this game tonight. So to do so and give ourselves a chance, ladies and gentlemen, again, the fastball slider, that's the calling card. We want to see the changeup early. We don't want to see him get to it after he establishes his fastball. He needs to throw that changeup early and often to get Toronto off his fastball. That's what I'm looking to see. And he also has a sinker, too, which has arm side run. So he's got the sinker that's got arm side run, the changeup that has arm side run, the devastating glove side movement with his slider, and the fastball and slider are elite when he mixes it in. So that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm hoping to see out of Rodon. You have to play tight defense. You got to run the bases intelligently. And, boy, oh boy, we need timely hitting. We need timely hitting. When it's bases loaded, nobody out, that's when we have to kick the door open. No doubt about it. So that's my thoughts, my hopes. TJ, we'll turn it over to you, and then we'll get Billy's comments.
Mike, I think you hammered everything right there, man. You nailed it. I'm going to go with a 6-3 win for the Yanks tonight. I'm thinking Rodon's going to give us six good ones, and we're just going to piecemeal it the rest of the way.
Bill?
I'm definitely taking the Yankees win tonight. I'd like to leave Rodon out as long as possible and try not to piece anything together and let him go 7 or 8. But what I'd really love to see is guys going up there with an approach of doing what is needed in the moment. We don't need Joey Gallo tonight. We need who my father was in the World Series. We need who Aaron Boone was in the World Series. We need guys that are going to come in and do what their team needs them to do. It's not about their ego. Let's figure out how to win this game. Because I'll be honest with you. I think if this team wins this series, I think this team could go all the way. I don't know if they could beat the Brewers or Dodgers, but I think they could get there, and it wouldn't terribly shock me if they could. But they're going to have to get a little more old school if they want to do that.
Well, we agree. Gentlemen, enjoy the game tonight. Yankee fans, enjoy the game. And again, we all believe that they can get this game. They should get this game. And then you take it from there. Gentlemen, it's been a blast. Thank you so much. And we're going to see you on the next episode. And as always, go Yankees. Thank you.
Go
gentlemen.
Yankees.
Okay.
Mike, Billy, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Go.